either side. So if you actually wish to play the Bismarck, let's do that right now, shall we? Why not? If you wish to play the Bismarck, you can do that. So, welcome to Victory at Sea's tactical mode here. So, this is a top-down grid. Now, at any time, you can toggle the tactical mode and go right into this mode, which allows you to see your fully rendered ship and also to control it directly with the mouse, kind of like this. So, it's fairly easy to control this. You're probably fairly used to this if you've played any game with boats in it in the past. And you'll want to be concerning yourself with getting optimal firing arcs, as you might imagine, and then firing your guns. So you can see the Bismarck has a fairly ridiculous firing range. Not unsurprising, considering the size of its guns there. You've got your secondary guns here, which can also be used at shorter ranges, and stern guns available too. So that's the Bismarck. But I have another ship right here. In fact, a Ripper-class heavy cruiser over there, which I can switch to, or alternatively, I can order it around with the tactical map. Now, by default, these ships are told to fight and engage and just attack the nearest ship. However, I can change that. I can send it this way, for instance. What has the cruiser got on it? Well, it's got a lot of torpedoes. It has a good number of bow guns as well. So I want to try and maybe broadside and, of course, be able to launch my torpedoes in a way that will do damage. So I'm going to send it just kind of at a shallow angle over in this direction. The Bismarck's range is fairly high too. And of course, he's not particularly maneuverable, but I think we want to move here into range. Actually, no, we're not going to do that, because I think it's facing that way already. It'll take a while to turn. So we'll send it over there. Now, you can also select, you can do waypoints, as you can see. I'm not 100% sure how you cancel waypoint. I think you just do that. So, if I want to kind of send the Bismarck over here, and then maybe have it make a turn to the left, and then head in this direction, I can do that. Outside of that, you can just order attack on a particular target, defend the current location, and retreat from the battle. And that's about it from the RTS view here. You can also change the speed. So if you're wanting to do tighter maneuvers, you'll probably want to decrease your speed. You can put yourself in reverse, and of course it also allows you to do things like dodging coming torpedoes. If they're predicting, maybe you're going at flank speed, you might want to decelerate to prevent them from happening. Okay. So the Bismarck is probably going to be in firing range relatively shortly. The heavy cruiser's going to take most of the pounding, and then the Bismarck's hopefully going to finish them off here. My hope is that the heavy cruiser will be able to engage with torpedoes, but the range for torpedoes is fairly small, as you can probably see. Getting a little bit shallow there. Now, what I can then do, of course, is hop into any of these ships that I want, and we're just going to lower the time dilation effect. There we go. So we're now in range, I think, so we can open up with a full broadside of heavy guns. And this is at half speed, so this is at the full RTS simulation speed, and I can go down to almost nothing, or I can actually pause and give orders there, which does make things a bit easier. So my heavy cruiser is going to take a bit of a pounding, which is fine. It's designed to take a bit of a pounding so the Bismarck can get into range and unload everything. And I'm going to just try and maneuver now, just to make sure that they have a bit of a more difficult time in hitting me. I'm going to just come in at a shallower angle and try and torpedo them. And then we can switch over to the Bismarck, who... Well, it's a slow bastard, let me put it that way. So I think I actually need to pull the heavy cruiser back at this point, or at least send it out of range of the British ships, because otherwise horrible things are going to end up happening. They already are happening. I'm taking a lot of damage, so I might lose my heavy cruiser. I'm unloading broadsides, and I'm doing some damage to the hood. Not a perfect amount, though. Ooh, that's crippled. Okay. That's bad news. Alright, so we're going to try and make a turn and get out of range before we sink, which is unlikely to happen. Probably shouldn't have sent it ahead at full speed. That was a pretty stupid thing to do. But there you go. So, now we know that that's a bad idea. I think the Bismarck's probably got range on the hood, whereas the hood doesn't, so we should be able to attack from here. You'll see the attack system is fairly simple. You click the weapon you want to click, or you press the hotkey, and then you right-click on the target. Now, the only difference is the situation where you're using torpedoes, where you will launch them, and then you will lead the target. So, you need to launch them at an angle that you think will actually hit the ship as they move into it. Outside of that, the only other guns you really have to worry about are... Well, I mean, actually, none of them. There's just... All of these guns work in the same way. They all kind of have their separate firing arcs and ranges. You have infinite ammo for all of them. And if you're using carriers in your fleet, you will also launch ships. There we go. So as you can see, I'm staying on a very extreme range of the hood there, being able to damage its turbine quite easily. I'm going to try and continue to do that. I'm going to try and steam ahead so they get in range, but I'm going to continue to just unload broadsides. And they might get the second. I don't have a particularly good chance to hit from here. There is a certain degree of skill, because if you click... Let's see. Yeah, clicking on the flag doesn't do anything, but you're basically clicking on the ship or an area of the ocean around the ship, which means that it does require a certain degree of aim. The main problem I've got with it is that the camera angles make it a little bit difficult to properly judge exactly what's going on there. Now, you can change the camera angles. So if we do that, the problem is this one's very short range. Like, this would be ideal if I could zoom out a bit further, but it doesn't let you do that. So you end up at this weird shallow angle that makes it just a little bit more difficult to hit the targets at long ranges than you might imagine. And, I mean, what you're seeing here is the basics of the battle system, and frankly, the battle system is extremely basic. It is an RTS in the sense that you can order ships around like this, but right now I only have one ship remaining in my fleet, and the hood just got absolutely ruined. Maybe one more volley, and then they'll probably sink, so we can finish off the... I think it's the Prince of Wales over there as well. If I actually even have range on him at this point. It almost looks like I do, but I can't quite tell because of the camera angle. I'll certainly give it a shot. I could also fire my stern guns at it as well. I've been loading everything. The Bismarck has a ridiculous fire rate, if you haven't already realized. It's a pretty powerful ship. This also lets you switch to their view, so I'll be able to...
Every human used to have to hunt or gather to survive, but humans are smartly lazy, so we made tools to make our work easier. From sticks to plows to tractors, we've gone from everyone needing to make food to modern agriculture with almost no one needing to make food. And yet, we still have abundance. Of course, it's not just farming, it's everything. We've spent the last several thousand years building tools to reduce physical labor of all kinds. These are mechanical muscles, stronger, more reliable, and more tireless than human muscles ever could be. And that's a good thing. Replacing human labor with mechanical muscles frees people to specialize, and that leaves everyone better off, even those still doing physical labor. This is how economies grow and standards of living rise. Some people have specialized to be programmers and engineers whose job is to build mechanical minds. Just as mechanical muscles made human labor less in demand, so are mechanical minds making human brain labor less in demand. This is an economic revolution. You may think we've been here before, but we haven't. This time is different. When you think of automation, you probably think of this: giant, custom-built, expensive, efficient, but really dumb robots blind to the world and their own work. They were a scary kind of automation, but they haven't taken over the world because they're only cost-effective in narrow situations. But they're the old kind of automation. This is the new kind. Meet Baxter. Unlike these things, which require skilled operators and technicians and millions of dollars, Baxter has vision and can learn what you want him to do by watching you do it. And he costs less than the average annual salary of a human worker. Unlike his older brothers, he isn't pre-programmed for one specific job. He can do whatever work is within the reach of his arms. Baxter is what might be thought of as a general-purpose robot, and general purpose is a big deal. Think computers. They too started out as highly custom and highly expensive, but when cheap-ish general-purpose computers appeared, they quickly became vital to everything. A general-purpose computer can just as easily calculate change, or assign seats on an airplane, or play a game, or do anything just by swapping its software. And this huge demand for computers of all kinds is what makes them both more powerful and cheaper every year. Baxter today is the computer of the 1980s. He's not the apex, but the beginning. Even if Baxter is slow, his hourly cost is pennies worth of electricity, while his meat-based competition costs minimum wage. A tenth the speed is still cost-effective when it's 100th the price. And while Baxter isn't as smart as some of the other things we will talk about, he's smart enough to take over many low-skilled jobs. And we've already seen how dumber robots than Baxter can replace jobs. In new supermarkets, what used to be 30 humans is now 1 human overseeing 30 cashier robots. Or take the hundreds of thousands of baristas employed worldwide. There's a barista robot coming for them. Sure, maybe your guy makes the double mocha whatever just perfect and you'd never trust anyone else, but millions of people don't care and just want a decent cup of coffee. Oh, and by the way, this robot is actually a giant network of robots that remembers who you are and how you like your coffee no matter where you are. Pretty convenient. We think of technological change as the fancy new expensive stuff, but the real change comes from last decade's stuff getting cheaper and faster. That's what's happening to robots now. And because their mechanical minds are capable of decision-making, they are out-competing humans for jobs in a way no pure mechanical muscle ever could. Imagine a pair of horses in the early 1900s talking about technology. One worries all these new mechanical muscles will make horses unnecessary. The other reminds him that everything so far has made their lives easier. Remember all that farm work? Remember running from coast to coast delivering mail? Remember riding into battle? All terrible. These new city jobs are pretty cushy, and with so many humans in the cities, there will be more jobs for horses than ever. Even if this car thingy takes off, you might say, there will be new jobs for horses we can't imagine. But you, dear viewer from Beyond 2000, know what happened. There are still working horses, but nothing like before. The horse population peaked in 1915. From that point on, it was nothing but down. There isn't a rule of economics that says better technology makes more better jobs for horses. It sounds shockingly dumb to even say that out loud, but swap horses for humans and suddenly people think it sounds about right. As mechanical muscles pushed horses out of the economy, mechanical minds will do the same to humans. Not immediately, not everywhere, but in large enough numbers and soon enough that it's going to be a huge problem if we're not prepared, and we're not prepared. You, like the second horse, may look at the state of technology now and think it can't possibly replace your job, but technology gets better, cheaper, and faster at a rate biology can't match. Just as the car was the beginning of the end for the horse, so now does the car show us the shape of things to come. Self-driving cars aren't the future. They're here and they work. Self-driving cars have traveled hundreds of thousands of miles up and down the California coast and through cities, all without human intervention. The question is not if they'll replace cars, but how quickly. They don't need to be perfect, they just need to be better than us. Human drivers, by the way, kill 40,000 people a year with cars just in the United States. Given that self-driving cars don't blink, don't text while driving, don't get sleepy or stupid, it's easy to see them being better than humans because they already are. Now, to describe self-driving cars as cars at all is like calling the first cars mechanical horses. Cars in all their forms are so much more than horses that using the name limits your thinking about what they can even do. Let's call self-driving cars what they really are. Autos, the solution to the transport objects from point A to point B problem. Traditional cars happen to be human-sized to transport humans, but tiny autos can work in warehouses and gigantic autos can work in pit mines. Moving stuff around is who knows how many jobs, but the transportation industry in the United States employs about 3 million people. Extrapolating worldwide, that's something like 70 million jobs at a minimum. These jobs are over. The usual argument is that the unions will prevent it, but history is filled with workers who fought technology that would replace them, and the workers always lose. Economics always wins, and there are huge incentives across wildly diverse industries to adopt autos. For many transportation companies, humans are about a third their total costs. That's just the straight salaries. Humans sleeping in their long-haul trucks cost time and money, accidents cost money, carelessness costs money. If you think insurance companies will be against it, guess what? Their perfect driver is one who pays their small premiums and never gets into an accident. The autos are coming, and they're the first place where most people will really see the robots changing society. But there are many other places in the economy where the same thing is happening, just less visibly. So it goes with autos, so it goes for everything. Autos and Baxters and think technology has always gotten rid of low-skilled jobs we don't want people doing anyway. They'll get more skilled and do better educated jobs like they've always done. Even ignoring the problem of pushing 100 million additional people through higher education, white-collar work is no safe haven either. If your job is sitting in front of a screen and typing and clicking, like maybe you're supposed to be doing right now, the bots are coming for you too, buddy. Software bots are both intangible and way faster and cheaper than physical robots. Given that white-collar workers are, from a company's perspective, both more expensive and more numerous, the incentive to automate their work is greater than low-skilled work. And that's just what automation engineers are for. These are skilled programmers whose entire job is to replace your job with a software bot. You may think even the world's smartest automation engineer could never make a bot to do your job, and you may be right, but the cutting edge of programming isn't super smart programmers writing bots, it's super smart programmers writing bots that teach themselves how to do things the programmer could never teach them to do. How that works is well beyond the scope of this video, but the bottom line is there are limited ways to show a bot a bunch of stuff to do, show the bot a bunch of correctly done stuff, and it can figure out how to do the job to be done. Even with just a goal and no knowledge of how to do it, the bots can still learn. Take the stock market, which in many ways is no longer a human endeavor. It's mostly bots that taught themselves to trade stocks, trading stocks with other bots that taught themselves.